sight. In the darkness is the light. Out of the shadows of my life. In the darkness is the light.
Welcome once again to the So Weird podcast. I'm Zach.
I'm Kathie.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Kat.
And tonight we are discussing So Weird Season 2, Episode 8, Werewolf, right? That is the one we're discussing, right?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Some people might
so
be disappointed that we're not talking about Boo tonight, but the reason for this is that we're going in order of production. And this is the order that makes sense timeline-wise, because Boo and Fountain were both added at the end of the season after they were already planned.
Yeah, so if you pay attention at the end of the last one, which was Mutiny, I believe, Clue's going off to college, and then this episode begins with Irene and Ned have already taken Clue to his university, and Jack's calling him up to check to see how he's doing and all that.
Yeah, a little bit of continuity there that probably would go unnoticed by most people.
But not us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, well, I guess we should first mention that, first off, nice to be back. We've been gone for a while. We'll just start by saying that. And secondly, this is the first episode with the new intro. Am I correct on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. First episode with no clue.
Mm-hmm. And Eric Lively is in the credits now.
Yes, and it also has that scene with the spooky ghost face over Fiona's shoulder.
Did not notice the new intro.
What?
Well,
Yes,
I
you
know that there is one, but I never pay attention to like which specific episode.
Okay.
Well, I definitely remember that shot in the opening credits of Fiona in the hallway, and then the spooky ghost face phases through the wall over her shoulder, which is from Strange Geometry, which is going to be coming up in a few here. But
Yeah, and it also includes the scene from Werewolf at the end where they're running around the woods and they turn around with a flashlight.
Oh, yeah, does it? I'm not exactly sure what specific episodes the individual clips are from, but I definitely recognize that one shot from Strange Geometry. And I remember seeing that in the opening credits when the show was on the air and thinking like, oh, wow, that's interesting. When's that episode coming up?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I love the season 2 opening credits starting with this episode because then you knew it was season 2. And anytime I saw the scenes from Banshee, I knew, oh, it's going to be a good episode.
Well, and, the episode we're not talking about today, Boo, is the Halloween episode. But what's interesting is this episode, Werewolf, I think is actually a better Halloween episode than Boo is.
AKA scary, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I don't know about everybody else, and I know there are some other episodes out there that are considered scary or creepy episodes. But to me, I think this is the closest So Weird would come to actually feeling like a horror series and like tone.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, as the title indicates, this is our werewolf episode. Every supernatural show has to do a werewolf at some point. Werewolves, vampires, and aliens. Every supernatural show has to do all of those. And, we've So Weird's done the aliens. This is the werewolf. Vampires are coming up in a little later on in season 2. So,
Yep. Yeah, in the beginning, her intro is talking about wolves in general and how they're no threat to man. And then she adds that's what if you kill a werewolf or so, like, what if the heart that's belonged to it is someone we love?
yeah, and that opening narration has that classic stock footage photo of the wolf with the crazy face. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. You've never seen that photo of the wolf with its like fur way back on its face and it's baring its fangs and it's staring. You see it all over the place on the internet. No, just me. All right, well,
No.
whatever. It's fine.
I'm sure somebody out there knows what you're talking about, just not me.
So the premise for this episode is, as we mentioned, Ned and Irene are helping Clue move into college. So they're not in this episode at all. And instead, Molly is driving the bus by herself. And they
she almost hit something.
Yeah. And they come into this small town, and they're there for a bed and breakfast. They're just there to relax. But there's something unusual about the family they're staying with. In particular, the little girl acts kind of strange. And at night, there are these reports of a wolf around town and eating people's chickens. And naturally, the two ideas are connected.
Yeah, before we go on any further, let's just take a moment to talk about that scene where Molly is driving the bus and they hit something in the road. And one of my favorite comedic lines of the series is when Molly goes out to look for it and Jack and Carey come out to look at it. And Fiona's like, if the guys can look, I can look. She looks, I don't want to look.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
Yeah.
Some nice humor there. And
after that, Carey picks up something in the road. He finds a fake nail and puts it in his pocket, which I always found disgusting.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
He
that
had no
is-
idea what it was, though.
He didn't know what it was, but that's still like, why?
That's kind of the only plot point of this episode that I dislike, because it is weird that first off he would dig this, it's a Lee press-on nail out of a dead animal of some sort and carry it around for the rest of the episode. And secondly, obviously the little girl is the werewolf, and the fact that her plastic press-on nails are staying on her when she changes, there's just something about that doesn't quite connect, because now I'm seeing an image of a werewolf running around with bright pink press-on nails, which, kind of dilutes the horror of the scenario a bit.
I never thought of that.
But something I like about this one a lot is, first off, it's a monster episode, but the monster is about as low budget as you can get, because we never actually see the werewolf. We get like a brief glimpse of something furry lunging at the window, and that is all we see. Otherwise, the werewolf is created through a technique I like to call monster vision, where the camera assumes the point of view of the creature. And, that's something you see a lot in low-budget movies and big-budget movies sometimes, too. I mean, I think Jaws and Predator are the two most famous examples of that technique.
We also saw it in Strangeling.
Yes,
the
we
dragon.
did.
Only we got more shots of the dragon than we did of the werewolf.
Yeah, maybe they learned their lesson from that, and they realized that dragon prop was not too great looking. So this time they decided they just weren't going to show the monster at all. But and it has kind of a weird color coding, a red coloration on it, and there's a good sequence where Jack and Fiona and Carey are being chased back to the bus by whatever it is. We don't even. Obviously, the name of the episode is Werewolf, and they've been talking about Werewolf. But assuming you missed that opening intro, you wouldn't even necessarily know what it was. Could have been a chupacabra for all you know. And just that sequence of them being chased and running back to the bus is actually mildly intense. It's about as intense as the Disney Channel's was allowed to get, I think.
Especially that scene where they get back to the bus and they're fumbling around to get the keys because they're trying to get to safety because the doors are the house is locked, and Fiona just looks and she screams bloody murder.
Yes, I noticed that. They really do a good job on selling that whatever's chasing them is really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
So when I first watched it, I definitely was scared.
Yeah, you definitely do feel like our main characters are in genuine peril with here, and yeah, I got to give Kara credit for her blood-curdling scream in this. It's great. She can scream great and cry great. She's really good at those things.
And also, I love Eric Lively's show of fear and bravery as he argues that, I should stay and I should lure it in because I'm the oldest. And then when he hears a rap at the door, he jumps back with this look of pure fear on his face.
Yeah, and then he has that little line about, why do I always have to be the oldest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked Carey in this episode.
Me too.
Though there is that kind of weird scene where he goes into Fiona's bedroom. And, we talk all the time about the weird, we talk about the quote-unquote sexual tension between Molly and Carey, though in actuality it doesn't exist at all. But I'm surprised there are no weirdo, Fee Carey shippers out there based entirely off of that moment, because it's quasi-intimate, because he's, sitting down on her bed and he seems either half asleep or I don't know, drunk or something. He's in an odd space.
Drunk.
I don't know what's going on, and it's just an odd little moment. I'm just saying, knowing how people on the internet are, I'm surprised nobody has ever seized on that.
No, because he's twice her size. No. And I think that's why I find it plausible to ship him with Molly, is because he's adult size. He's not child size. He's not teenage size. No.
Yeah, I did think that was kind of weird. Like, I don't know why they had to film it when she was sleeping or going to sleep or something, but...
I think I was still too distracted by the fake nail in that scene to pay attention to it.
And yeah, he's like, hey, look, Fee. Look what I found.
Well, wasn't he, like, returning her laptop?
Right, yeah, that's the reason he's in the room, but it's still... I don't know, it's an odd moment.
Well, they lived together on a bus, so I don't know, it never struck me as odd.
But also weird in this episode is that outfit Fiona is wearing in the first half, which is a red shirt that says All-Star on it, and I believe she's wearing a skirt, which is weird. I don't remember ever seeing Fiona in a skirt before.
I did not notice. I just noticed her butterfly clips.
Yeah, they're back, baby.
Well, that's how you know it's 1999 or 2000, I guess, is when this one came out. But so there's some continuity stuff here with Molly, who overall doesn't have too big of a role in this one. She's not in the adventure part. She's asleep in her bed in the B&B, totally unaware of what her kids are up to. But this is the first time we hear a bit of The Rock.
Also a bit of a backstory on it where she talks about how she's running it for her father, about her father. So we start to build up a little bit to Banshee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that stuff all coming up soon. And again, I just appreciate how the writers would add little references to things that would happen soon or would reference stuff that happened in the past because they didn't have to. I mean, that's the thing about So Weird that makes it so head and shoulders above other kids show from that era is, the writers could have just turned out a mediocre subpar product and nobody would have cared because it's a Disney Channel show. But they really went in and gave the effort to do things like that and make sure the series was cohesive.
Kudos always.
What was that?
Nothing.
I just wanted to say, so I think Molly, near the end of the episode, she's like reflecting on, I guess, her relationship with her dad, and she says she thinks she understands her dad better because of the interaction between Laura's dad and Laura. And I was just wondering what you all thought she meant by that.
Yeah, when she first said that, and I was trying to figure out, like, I didn't understand, like, what she meant, but I think because there's one line that the lady, I forgot her name, of the house, she said she was telling Molly how he's really sweet now. Her husband's really sweet with Laura, but I guess before he wasn't like that. So I'm just thinking it's that hard personality versus the soft side. That's all what I could think of.
That's interesting. I thought of it more as like how Laura couldn't go to her parents with her problem. Like maybe that's how Molly felt growing up, that she couldn't talk to them. But I think your theory makes more sense.
Well, that's a good observation, though, about the relationship between the girl and her parents and how she's hiding something, which leads to one of my favorite things about this episode, because the first half is, like I said, for a Disney Channel show, pretty intense, about as scary as they could probably get with it. And then there's an interesting tonal shift in the last third where now Fiona has realized that Laura, this little girl that has kind of taken a shine to her that lives there at the B&B, is this werewolf that's been chasing them. And suddenly the episode becomes very sympathetic towards her. And there's just the stuff in the episode where how Laura is afraid to come to her parents about her being a werewolf, but which I think you could probably maybe read into, just think about it in the sense that, oh, well, maybe, this could be a metaphor for a kid that is like gay or something else that's having trouble coming to their parents and talking to them about that. And then the way at the end of the episode where her mother and her father say to the whole town, our daughter has this condition, but we want to work with it and make it a part and, still include her in the community and everybody comes to support her. It's actually rather touching.
Yeah, I really like that end scene. It's so serious, but it's so nice. And with Laura, her story is that she was found in the woods. And so Do you guys know their names? The lady.
No, I missed the name of
Well,
her parents.
I'll just say their parents. So yeah, her parents adopted her because I think they were trying to have a child, but they couldn't. So Laura was like a blessing to them. And that could also be another reason why Laura was too afraid to come to them about this problem, because she says to Fee how she's afraid that they wouldn't love her anymore.
Right.
Yeah, and also, I think it's really interesting that you saw it as like a metaphor for coming out, because I always saw it as like a metaphor for puberty, where your body starts going through changes and you don't understand it, and it's awkward, and you don't want to ask those questions to your parents. You kind of just hide what's going on until the truth comes out.
Well, that's fair too. In fact, they kind of make that parallel in the episode itself when Fiona is talking to Jack and Carey about werewolves, and Carey makes a reference to how he wasn't born with hair on his face, which leads to that cute dialogue with Jack where he's like, "Well, you don't have hair on your face now," some buddy macho playing around. But I mean, it's pretty common that the werewolf is used as a metaphor for puberty or something in fiction. I mean, in like movies like I Was a Teenage Werewolf and the original Teen Wolf, stuff like that. So you're probably right. It's probably closer to that. I mean, and Laura is probably about around the age when maybe a young girl would start having some of those changes. So you're probably right. That's probably what the writers were actually going for.
Well, we see Fee with an 18 magazine in her bed, and then Fee and Laura have this talk about, what they're allowed to do and all that. So
yeah, that weird line about, does your mom allow you to wear wigs and fake eyelashes?
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder about that a little bit, because we've talked about it before, how Fiona is not like a girly girl. So it is a little weird to see her like interested in that. But for the purpose of the episode, it works.
Yeah. What did you guys think of Laura, like her character?
I always thought she was annoying. Like, I
Yeah, that's
never
what
really understood how she was attached to Fee so quickly.
Yeah, like at least the first half of the episode, she's annoying to me. But the last half, especially when she's talking to Fee in the bus,
Yeah.
Then I feel pretty sorry for her.
Me too.
I think it's her monotone voice. Like, to me, there's just not a lot of emotion there, so she comes off as creepy, especially when she shows up in front of Fee's bed at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it took, it's kind of hard for me to warm up to her by the end of it.
Okay, well, that's fair.
I'm just
What
saying,
did you think, Zach?
it's kind of an acting thing, too, I think.
Well, it's not so much that I would refer to the character as annoying. I think that she latches onto Fee so quickly is a little strange. But I think, once again, that's just kind of the perils of writing a 22-minute episode. If this was an hour-long series, you could maybe get into that relationship a little more and explore their friendship. But you can't do that because you've only got a half an hour plus commercials. So they kind of have to take some shortcuts.
I mean, some little children are like that, I think. Because in college, I had a pen pal thing with the elementary students, and we would go visit them for like 2 days. And I would see mine, and they totally latched on to me the whole time. So maybe it's like such a small town. Also, there's not that many little girls for her to play with, so she sees Fee is kind of young, like her, and so she just latches on to her.
How old is she supposed to be? Do you all remember?
I'm not sure they ever mention her age, do they? I got the impression that she was like 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I will say, I think the scene where she and Fee are eating breakfast or whatever, and Fee kind of fakes her out with scooping up the cereal is kind of cute.
I thought that was annoying.
Yeah.
Well, I think Fee's really sweet in that scene to kind of be playing with her.
Yeah, and it's, we don't get to see Fiona interact with a young female that's close to her age that often on the show. Usually it's just her mom and her brother. I mean, I was going to say brothers, but you know what I mean. And so that is kind of interesting about this episode.
As for the ending scene, it is a nice scene when they all say they'll help, but I kind of wish there was an after credit scene like after they tell them what's actually happening, that Laura's a werewolf, and just like a shot of their faces.
Yeah, that's something I've always wondered about. Like, how can they be so supportive? And like, will he still be that supportive once they learn like what her condition is?
Yeah.
Well, that would kind of undermine the whole point of the episode, wouldn't it? If there was like this shot at the end where like, oh yeah, by the way, she's a werewolf.
Grab the pitchfork.
I would have loved it.
But you know, that is an interesting idea though, because usually in fiction, you know, werewolves are something that you know, people have no control over with, and they usually end up getting killed or something like that. So the idea that this episode presents this image or this concept that maybe a whole town would be willing to like live with a werewolf and do things to help her with this condition is interesting to me and kind of a different take on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, any other thoughts or observations about this one?
I really like the bus escape scene when Carey is trying to lure the werewolf in, and the way Jack goes out the window first and then helps Fee out the window.
I always thought that was really crafty, like how they lured her in. Really cool.
Once again, making use of the disproportionately large area inside the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Jack being the knight.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So I would, you know, I'm a big fan of this one. I would say this is probably like in my top 10 episodes for the whole show. I really respond to the fact that it's a So Weird episode that tries to be scary and actually goes out of its way to embrace some of the horror elements. And yet then at the end, there's this really cool tonal shift where suddenly the goal of the episode completely turns around. And altogether, I think it works very well. So I'm a big fan of Werewolf. I think this is... I mean, there are a lot of really good episodes coming up a little later in season 2, so I don't want to say it's one of my favorites of the seasons, but this is one I like a lot.
Agreed.
I don't know if this one's in my top 10, but I do really enjoy it. That scene with them getting chased by the werewolf is one of the better scenes in the show, I feel like. And I think that this, you know, Carey's moment in the bus where he bravely steps up and traps the werewolf is probably one of his best moments on the show. But I don't know why this one isn't quite up there as one of my favorites. It may just be the acting from Laura. It just takes me out a little bit from the emotional side of this one.
Chantel Conlon is the name of that actress, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, she is a little wooden.
Has she gone on to act in other things beyond So Weird, or was she just doing a few things as a child actor?
She's has a couple of TV credits. She was on like various incarnations of The Outer Limits and The Twilight Zone. Did a couple episodes of stuff like that. Nothing. Her only feature film credit is the movie Mission to Mars, if anybody remembers that. So, yeah, not a lot of credits for this actress. Okay, well, so anybody else have any closing thoughts on this one?
I think it's interesting that you refer to it as one of the scarier episodes of So Weird, because I always saw it as a little more comedic, and the only scary part was really the chase scene and then that moment in the bus.
Really?
So I think, like, it's a good episode, but it's not, like, up there for me.
What elements of it did you find comedic?
Comedic?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah. I thought the part, like, a lot of funny one-liners, like the part about the bus scene, like you mentioned, Jack making fun of Carey, the scene with Laura and Fee and the spoons. I don't know, it just struck me as, like, more lighthearted. And then it was scary nighttime chase scene, and then emotional support.
Well, different strokes for different folks. What can I say?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything to say about this one, Kathie?
I didn't really write much down for this episode, but I do like it a lot. I think I like it a lot because it just all worked well, and like, it was a smooth episode. So I don't know if we're going into ratings now. But,
Sure.
I will rate it a 7.
I gave this one an 8.
I'd pick it at like a 7.5. Like, I want to give it an 8, but I don't know. I think it's because it doesn't have any ties to the whole Rick story arc that's keeping me from giving it an 8. I like it, but it's just like a standalone type of episode to me.
Kat bringing percentages into this.
Well, I do give it thumbs up, but it's not in my top 10.
Thumbs up. So you're one of those people who like the new Netflix rating system, is what you're telling me, Emily.
No, are we, isn't that my thing now? Thumbs up. I thought that was my thing. I can't do the numbers, guys.
So if we are all wrapped up on that topic, Kathie had some stuff she wanted to share with our listeners on this one.
Yeah. So I went to Vancouver for vacation for like 2.5 weeks, and that's where they shot So Weird. So I was thinking maybe some of the actors were local actors and were still there. But I only was able to get in contact with, I was going to say Ned Ward, Dave Ward, who plays Ned. And he does a lot of, he performs music at a lot of like small bars around town. So I actually met up with him and we had a good conversation talking about the industry, the film industry, a little bit of what he did back then. So he said that a lot of the stuff that he did was voiceovers. And right now, I think he had told me he just finished something, but I completely forgot the name. But
Starstruck.
I was a little like, what? I'm glad I had 2 of my friends there because they were like keeping the conversation going. But yeah, and I asked a little bit about So Weird and like what he remembered, and he told me that all the actors there were just really nice and sweet. And I think he said he still keeps up with some of them, and that he wanted to call up Belinda, like I guess if I had contacted him ahead of time, who plays Irene, Belinda Metz. And he's like, oh, I would have called her up so we could all meet up, but he said that she was, I think, in Toronto, like doing her singing stuff. And a cool little thing is that he said when they were filming So Weird, he would have a friend that would pick him up and drop him off, and his friend had a guitar with him in the car one day, and his friend like kind of urged him to learn to play it, and that's how he knows guitar now. So a lot of his performances, he's singing and playing guitar.
That's interesting. Most important question: did you mention the podcast to him?
I did, and I said that you guys said hey, and then he's like, "Oh, hello." Yeah, I did, and I said how we'd love for all of us to have some interview with him, and he said that he would definitely do that with us.
Wow.
Cool. We need to clear our schedules and figure out when we can do that.
Yeah.
That was such an
That's
exciting
just
night,
so.
though.
Yeah, it's so cool you actually met him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is super neat that you would get to talk to. I mean, somebody on the show, on this podcast that we talk about almost every week, and then hey, you get to meet him. That's pretty neat,
Right? It's really cool.
I love that he mentioned that he still keeps in touch with some of the members from So Weird, and that they were all such nice people, because you get that vibe from the show.
Yeah, and it's like the show's almost 20 years old or so, and the fact that they still keep in touch, like if you think of other shows from back then, like which actors would keep in touch from that long ago.
Yeah.
It just goes to show the power of So Weird.
Yeah,
It still means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, and also you mentioned this on the Twitter feed. You got a picture of the hotel from Twin or something.
Yeah, so Vancouver is like the filming place for like so many shows, and right now it's easy to find locations for current shows, but like a 20-year-old show is kind of hard. So I was thinking, like, what's something that stands out? And Emily had brought up the hotel, which is, I think it's just called Hotel Vancouver.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
Fairmont Hotel Vancouver.
Yeah, so I had a lot of time, so I told my friends, like, oh, let's go to this hotel, because we pass by it all the time. So we did, and I went inside, and it was the nicest hotel that I've ever seen. Like, the stores, like, down there were, like, Gucci, all those labels that I don't know. And so I went up on the elevator, and I clicked, I think, roof level, and it took me to the level to get to the roof, and there's, like, nothing there besides a piano on that level, and we opened the door, and of course it was locked. Or no, it wasn't locked. It said security, like fire alarm will go off or something. So I did not want to do that.
But yeah, that's
yeah.
the scene or that's where they filmed the rooftop scene in Twin. It was on top of that roof. You can, like, if you go on Google and look up the Hotel Vancouver, you'll see the gargoyles just like they are at the end episode when the shot pans out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely recognizable. And there's I was trying to think of other, like, locations that would stick out, and so I had watched the mutiny scene again and showed my friends, and in that scene they're walking on a beach and there's a lighthouse and a bread building, and that looked pretty, like, distinct. So I searched that, and it was actually on Vancouver Island, and I would have wanted to go, but it was really far to get there, like 5 hours or so driving, so I skipped that. And a lot of the places that So Weird films, they try to make it look like small towns. So yeah, there's, like, nothing distinct about small houses or parks, because those are everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, still, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we
Well
got
done.
pictures, and he signed a print that I brought. And he's always so thankful of all the support that we have for him.
Well, you should maybe include that in the YouTube video if you're comfortable with putting that in there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, and that's why we didn't. Haven't been any new episodes for about a month. So.
That is why. Yep.
Well, not just her. I went on vacation too. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I thought that would something that people would definitely like to hear about. So, have we gotten any feedback in the interim or anything like that?
A little bit. I think about, like, 4 comments or so. Yeah, this one is from Beauty Effulgent. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Wow. It's a word you don't hear a lot.
This is they're replying to the Listen episode. They said, "Hey guys, thanks for the username compliment. I wanted to clear up something before I get into my So Weird rant. I think there was a bit of a mix-up with the Buffy episode I was talking about last episode. The episode you thought I was referring to was Restless in Season 5, which is the really abstract dream episode. I was actually talking about Nightmares in Season 1, where a boy in a coma accidentally brings the nightmare world to the real world and everyone's nightmares become reality. The little boy is being chased by a monster called the Ugly Man, but the monster is actually a physical manifestation of his subconscious fear. Buffy fights the monster, which helps him face his fear, and we find out that the Ugly Man is actually his Little League coach who beat him up and put him in a coma. I think the similarities between the 2 episodes are way too strong to be written off as coincidence. But anywho, back to So Weird. I wouldn't call Listen one of my favorite episodes, but it's not one of my least fave either. I'd have to rank it a 6 as well for many of the reasons you all have already mentioned. The unanswered question of what we are supposed to listen for still bothers me to this day, but I have to give the episode kudos for making PSP seem so unsettling, a concept I wouldn't have otherwise considered so creepy, and the crop circle stuff is also pretty interesting in my opinion. As far as the alien episodes in the series go, I have to say that Roswell Ep is by far my favorite, but at least we get new math in this one, which is in my top 5 favorite songs of the series. Really glad you guys pointed out that the aliens actually say listen at the end. I had never noticed that before. Sorry, I wrote you guys a novel. Keep the faith.
Well, I do remember the Buffy episode she's talking about, and yeah, I guess there are some pretty strong parallels between that and So Weird's Nightmare episode. I hadn't thought about that, but I wasn't on the Listen episode, so I actually have no idea what else she's talking about.
Yeah, it was Emily who was talking about it.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that episode, and yeah, I definitely see the parallels now. Good call.
And I will also say that Roswell is also my favorite of the Alien story episodes.
Yep, same.
I'm not really sure. I think Memory may be my favorite of the Alien ones.
Me too.
But
Well, we'll have to discuss that when it comes up.
All right, so yeah, thank you for that. And this is from the GSTV reviewer on our episode Mutiny. They said, really enjoyed this episode, especially the way Ned acted out as a pirate. It's sad to see Clue go, even though he would be back next season. When you guys gave out your overall thoughts on the episode, it's ironic one of you mentioned something about being the odd man out. What did you think about Eric Von Detten leaving So Weird in favor of the forgotten ABC sitcom?
Oh, geez. Well, I remember seeing the show, and I remember recognizing Eric Von Detten from So Weird. But other than that, I do not remember much of anything about the show itself. I think it ran for only a few episodes, and wasn't it on the TGIF episode block, though? I'm not sure. I remember watching the show, but that's about it. I know it existed. I don't remember anything else beyond that. If it was funny or... I only watched it a few times, so I'm assuming I was not amused.
I just remember seeing promos for it all the time that involved Eric Von Detten sticking a kid's face in his armpit. I don't think I ever watched it.
That does sound familiar.
I don't remember anything about that show, and I was always under the impression that he left So Weird to film The Princess Diaries, but maybe that was wrong. I don't know. That's what I always thought.
I didn't even know of that show.
All right. Well, that's here's a podcast about one obscure TV show talking about an even more obscure TV show.
And speaking of obscure TV shows, the one that I did like to watch was after So Weird, Patrick Levis went on to Maybe It's Me. And I've found episodes of that on YouTube, and it's pretty funny.
The title sounds a little familiar, but I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah,
I think I posted about it on the forum with a link to one of the episodes.
I'll have to look it up. Was it like a comedy? Was it a network show? Or
It was a sitcom.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you to the person who wrote that comment.
This is from Darvme on the forum. They said, Listen is a good episode. I like the furthering of the Molly-Carey connection and the farm angle. I'm glad they raised the issue of farming, how hard it is, and the thinning of traditional family farming via corporate farms. I wish Gabe had been mentioned in this episode. Maybe Molly could have found out about the farming issue through Jack and Gabe. Jack seemed annoyed at Fee, and I think he really was angry at her for her making them both miss Molly and Carey's first concert together, which, by the way, looked very chummy. I would love the episode a lot more had it been able to continue and conclude properly. It makes me so curious what the aliens were doing there in that small town, why ESP, and why did they want everyone to listen? Were they specifically targeting Fee, or was it something bigger? So much we will never know. I can totally see a season 3 that still carries out much of the original plans without Kara. One idea I had was during Twin, both Rick and Fee get knocked off the ledge by the monster, and then the Phillips and Bells have to band together to find them. I can see Annie coming into this season as well as James' cousin or sister. Ned and Irene watch Carey on stage, and Irene has her arms crossed but still nods her head. It's like a message that even though Carey disappointed her, she is still proud of him. Mutiny, don't cross the nuss. I wish there was a YouTube video showcasing Ned's fantastic motoring skills.
Well, just her thoughts on a season 3 without Fiona that could have still worked. I don't know about that, but otherwise, thanks for the feedback, Darby.
That
I
actually
really like that comment she brought up about how Gabe and Jack could have brought the farming issue to their attention. Since Gabe grew up on a farm, like, yeah, that would have been an awesome idea.
Well, this episode we talked about today also had farmers in it. It's lots of farms and so weird.
I was just going to comment on her season 3 idea. I did kind of write an idea like that a while back on the forum. Basically, I came up with an alternate season 3 where they could have kept some of the stuff going without Kara. And I think I did end up having Fee fall off with Rick on the roof. But I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have been ideal, obviously, but they could have made it work, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go into it.
the season 3 they had planned, I don't know how you do that without Fiona. That would be tricky.
They would have
in season 3, they should have had it so that Jack got the ring and Jack became the main character.
I mean, that would have been a better idea than bringing in a totally new character, but we'll get to season 3. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from East Street Band Fan 1. They said, "Great job on the Mutiny podcast. I thought the episode was just okay, but Dave Ward definitely should have gotten one of those Kids' Choice Awards for his acting in the episode. The scene where he is yelling at the kids to let him out of the room was definitely a different side of his acting we normally don't see on the show. It's also a shame that it's the last time that we see Clue until season 3, which is a shame for those of you Flu shippers out there. I don't think of Clue not only as a comic relief, but also as Disney's version of a stoned teen. I also believe that this episode is one of the only 2 episodes that is Ned-centric, which the other being Fall. I'm looking forward to the next podcast on Boo, as it's a great episode, and I watch it every Halloween. Not only is it the only Halloween-themed episode, but it also features executive producer Henry the Fonz Winkler."
They're going to be so disappointed. Well, just a thing about how the show should have been nominated was, I'm looking at So Weird's IMDb page here, and it doesn't look like it was nominated for anything, and that's crazy.
Really?
I nominated for Outstanding Children's Writing. Winner So Weird. Outstanding Everything. Winner So Weird. Biggest Bus. Winner So Weird.
I thought they had been nominated for something.
Wouldn't Disney have had to put it up for consideration for those awards? Isn't that kind of how they work?
Yeah, usually when something, when there's an award show, the nominees are submitted by whoever the company producing them. That's how it works with like the Oscars and things like that. I don't know how it works with, say, the Kids' Choice Award, Kids' Choice Awards, or the Cable Ace Awards, or anything like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like Disney probably overlooked their own show.
Oh, okay. So I'm on the IMDb, and there's nominations, but not wins.
For what?
They did get nominated 7 times.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm here. I'm working for IE now, and I don't have my IMDb settings, so I've got the weird, terrible mobile version of IMDb where you can't find anything. So that's probably why you saw that.
Okay, yeah. There's in 2000 for the Leo Award, Best Performance by a Male in a Dramatic Series, Mackenzie Gray.
Really?
Yeah.
Of all the
transplant.
things.
Transplant. And then 2001, the Young Artist Awards, Best Ensemble in a TV Series.
Oh, we should have won that.
And that one is Eric Lively, Eric Von Detten, Patrick Levis, Alex Johnson.
Who were they up against?
It doesn't show all that.
So Kara was never nominated, and the writing was never nominated?
Yeah, she got nominated. I'm going to just read them all. Yeah, they also got that nomination again. So they got Ensemble in 2000 and 2001. And 2000 was including Kara. And they also got nominated for Best Family TV Series for the Young Artist Awards. And then the Young Star Awards in 2000, Best Young Actor Performance in a Drama TV Series, Eric Lively, Young Actress, Kara, and then Best Young Ensemble Cast.
Okay, well, I'm glad the show at least got some recognition. Though, to be brutally honest, I've not heard of any of these award shows, but mean,
I don't know anything about that.
yeah, So Weird wasn't getting Emmy heat or anything like that. But still, I'm glad it at least got some recognition when it was new. All right. Well, that's good. Okay, so is there anything else?
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
Feedback from Andrea on Facebook. This is for the Mutiny episode. She said, I agree with the points you made about the end scene of Mutiny. It would have been more realistic if the skeleton hand had appeared more worn by time. I like that the driftwood sinks near the skeleton, though, because it goes to show that it really is more than just a piece of wood, as Jack had stated. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say about Boo. During my youth, it was my least favorite episode. I always thought Fergus was so strange that I could barely sit through the episode. I rewatched it today and was able to understand it better. I was also taken aback because although I don't pair Carey and Molly, I found myself thinking like a shipper when Carey said that aging rock stars really should do sit-ups if they're going to wear all that spandex. Forgive me, but do shippers take that as Carey noticing Molly by paying attention to what she wears? Also, after he and Jack scare Molly in the street, which is a great funny scene, he softens a little and asks her what she's up to. I also appreciate how Molly is so motherly in the beginning. When Jack jokes that he has a zit, I love it when she takes his face in her hand and says, "Aw, but you're still my handsome boy." The dialogue is great because that is something to the likeness of what a real mother would say. It is also motherly and realistic when she says Jack and Carey's names in a scolding tone after they scare her. The abundance of brother-sister teasing is great too. It is so sweet to see Jack and Fee get along instead of arguing or disagreeing.
Well, that is some great feedback on an episode we did not talk about today.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to do this episode down the road. Since I just watched Boo last night, I'll say this. I know it's not a particularly well-regarded episode, but I think the first half of Boo is pretty good, and the second half is pretty not so good. I'll just leave it at that, and we'll get our more detailed thoughts on that later.
We all look forward to it.
And I just want to thank the regular people, like the regular feedback people, like Darby and Andrea and E Street Band. These are names we hear almost every episode, every time we record, and it's really great to have regular feedback from listeners. I really appreciate that so much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for listening.
All right. Well, is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, if there are no other pressing issues, I conclude this meeting. All right. This has been the So Weird Podcast. I'm Zach.
I'm Kathie.
I'm Emily.
And we'll hear from you next time. Keep the faith.
Bye.